All right, I'm here with a video going over some of the games I've been playing lately. I think two big ones. That week in October, I guess second week of October. Exciting week for Objo Gaming himself and pretty much no one else. Just kidding. The only thing that could have made this week more exciting, I guess, is if a new Ace Attorney game released. But we got two big games here. I'm sure you see in the title. We have Silent Hill 2 and Metaphor ReFantazio. So a remake of one of my favorite games of all time and a brand new IP JRPG from one of my favorite studios of all time. Doesn't get too much better than that. So we will start with some thoughts on Silent Hill 2 remake because this is the one that I've played more. Going off my memory of the first game, I would say I'm over halfway through, so I haven't finished it yet, but on my way to finishing it. I'm really enjoying it a ton. I was, like I think most people, pretty skeptical. Konami, of course, not in the best place. I think we can all agree. After Metal Gear Solid 5, they kind of just went into hibernation, released some collections and Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Survive, which was bad, and their Pro Evolution Soccer stuff, eFootball stuff's not so hot. But this game was announced. I was always like, you know what, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic for it. Another part I think a lot of people were not super optimistic about was it was of course developed by Bloober Team. Bloober Team's a Polish studio who's known for games that are at best not very good. They did that. What's that game? Basement Crawl on PS4, which is not quite Life of Black Tiger bad, but very much not good. And then they've done Layers of Fear, which are kind of like that Blair Witch game they did, which wasn't, I think, very well liked. I've not played any of their games, but just from my information, I was not super confident. Their most recent game was The Medium, which was another one that didn't get very, well liked. But they're a horror studio. I think people have always said, like, hey, their kind of defining thing is their ability to make good atmosphere and their ability to make cool environments, and their worst their weaknesses are maybe story and design. But Silent Hill 2 is a story that's already written. It's released in 2001. It is a story. It's a game that's already been designed and laid out. So remaking this from the ground up in the style of a Resident Evil remake, Resident Evil 2 more specifically, and 3 and 4 and everything, was, I think, a genius move. And right now, I would say, of all of the horror remakes that we've got, including something like Dead Space, the Resident Evil remakes, I think this is my favorite. Of those games already, Silent Hill 2 is my favorite of like the classic survival horror games, so maybe that's not super fair. But they did a great job with this. The environment is so good, and it's crazy to just walk through and be like, man, yeah, it's so impressive when you're like, yeah, this is the game. I remember, like, I remember this room, I remember this environment, I remember this, but this is an over-the-shoulder game, not a fixed camera angle PS2 game, So that's, I think, one of the big parts of it, where it's like they've really nailed the environments in a way that's like really impressive. I like that a lot. Exploring each of the areas is really good, really cool, and it's awesome how they're able to expand upon certain places where it's like, okay, this is over here. You can smash windows now, so you smash a window and there's a little room. You can get some ammo. It's little things like that that make it more interesting to explore and change it up a little bit more than you would think they would change it up. Obviously, story is the same, but dialogue is rewritten to be, I think, more natural, and the acting and voice acting is really good. Motion captured acting and everything is really awesome, and it's just a big step up. I like Silent Hill 2 a lot. Obviously, people defend it, but the acting in Silent Hill 2, the original, was not its strong point. And I think that it has its charm, and I'll talk a little bit about in a minute, like the original versus this, as far as they both are wonderful to play. It has its charm, but it's weird, and people will go to bat and say, "Oh, well, the weird acting makes it more unnerving," and it's like, I guess, but I like the more subdued, well acted, well written dialogue versus kind of the the goofy-ish kind of dialogue. So I think that's a big plus. But I think, like I said, both games existing is awesome because they are still, despite being the same game, following the same plot beats and the same areas, they are still distinctly different games. You get your fixed camera angle, which plays a lot more with like the cinematography of like, okay, this room, look at the focus of this room. This has something to say. This has something to add to the narrative, and I think that's super awesome. And then on this one, it's like this is a you are here. The original one is almost like you were watching Silent Hill 2 play out, and obviously you're playing it, but you're watching this, and this is like a film. This is like an interactive movie. Where this one is like you are more immersed. You're more experiencing this firsthand rather than going in and just being there, watching the events unfold. And I think that's really cool as well. And I'm just really impressed. Bloober knocked it out of the park. I think, people were right to be skeptical, but they really knocked it out of the park and they really delivered something great. It's a very, very good looking game graphically. I think you can get a lot out of the idea of having fog obscure a lot of things so you don't have to load in a lot. Obviously, that was what they went with the original games, and those games are still look really nice. Like, those games are still really detailed and look really nice for their time. And this game looks great as well. I know it's Unreal Engine 5. I mean, really the only complaint I have with this game as far as how it looks is that sometimes I get a little bit of stuttering. I'm playing in the performance mode at 60 FPS, and it still looks really nice. But you do occasionally get that stuttering. You do occasionally get, like, I don't know, just it gets choppy for a second. You can tell it's processing something. I'm moving from one area to the next. But there's no, real loads other than loading into the game and occasionally loading into an area, stuff like that. So it's really impressive in that way, and I like it a lot. And another thing that I think really sets it apart from the original is combat. And I know people are like, oh, it doesn't need to have combat. But I think, I don't want to play the same exact game. I want to play Silent Hill 2, but I think the combat's good. That you have the melee weapons and you have the guns of the original game. You still have a lot of ammo scarcity, and the combat scenarios are really intense. Like, you'll get through a scenario and you're like, man, my health is low. I really could use some health. I got like 2 bullets. I don't know what I'm going to do if one of these enemies comes up to me again. And then it's like, oh, well, there's another one. I guess I'm going to have to really, white knuckle this one and get through it. And it's really, really cool. And I think it adds to a lot of the horror, the fact that you still go back to, and not always, there are sometimes checkpoints if there's a long distance between saves, or if there is maybe an encounter that they know that you'll probably die. There's still checkpoints, but it kind of adds to the horror where it's like, I haven't saved for a while. I'm not quite sure how well I'm going to do in this encounter. Like, that's where it really kind of gets crazy. So I like the combat a lot. It really does feel like you are this kind of pathetic guy who's been just thrown into this world where it's like, yeah, if I was this guy and these crazy looking monsters were just walking around, I couldn't even really identify what it was supposed to be for the most part. Yeah, I would have an iron pipe that I found, and I would beat the thing until I didn't see it moving anymore. Like that, I think that's really cool, and they really did it well there, and they really did it justice. And I'm all in on Bloober Silent Hill. Obviously, starting with 2 is strange. It makes sense because it's the most iconic one, and it's also 1 and 3 are connected, and 4 is a little less popular. But I'd love to see them go Silent Hill, remake Silent Hill 1 like this. Maybe remake Silent Hill 3, remake Silent Hill 4. And then, I would say you guys have studied Silent Hill enough. You guys know Silent Hill in and out. Why don't you try to make a new Silent Hill? And I know they have some other projects. Some of them already came out. That Short Message free title, I guess, came out. That was not very good. I didn't play it. It was pretty bad. That Ascension, I still don't get what Silent Hill Ascension even is, but everything I've seen of it looks horrible. That kind of interactive movie game thing. So let's, Konami, let's take the lesson here. This seems to be selling well. Critically, it's doing well. Stick to this for now. Let's see what Bloober can do. Kind of keep working with them, keep nurturing that, and let's figure it out, because I think they nailed something here. And I gotta say, though, I'm not trying to be a tough guy. It's unnerving, and the environments are really, creepy, obviously. But I'm not scared playing this game. And the people who are online being like, I can't play this game for more than a half hour at a time because it freaks me out. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just immune to horror games. Because, I mean, I play these games and it's just like, yeah, this is fun. I play them like I'd play Mario. Like, my heart rate's not elevated at all. I'm just chilling. I'm having a good time. So maybe, I don't know. I live in Ohio, so Ohio, half of Ohio looks like Silent Hill already. There's more horrors in Ohio than there are in Silent Hill 2, I can assure you. So maybe that's it. I don't know. But Silent Hill 2, excellent. One of the best of the year. Phenomenal remake. They did a great job. So more experience with that one. Really excited to finish it up. But I also have been playing Metaphor ReFantazio. I'm only a few hours into this, and a few hours into an Atlas RPG is like saying that you watched 10 minutes of a 2.5 hour movie. Like, it's not really a helpful, not super helpful. But I figured I'd give my initial impressions. I got the special edition and I did an unboxing. You can check that out. It's the most recent video on the channel before this one. But so far I'm very impressed with this one. So Metaphor ReFantazio is from Studio Zero, one of Atlas's, I guess 3 main internal teams. And Studio Zero is kind of formed. They did the enhanced port of Catherine. And then a lot of Persona guys after 5 kind of jumped ship over to here to work on this one. So the pedigree is already there, of course. But I have been waiting for this one for a while, even just to figure out what it is. So like 2016, 2017, they were like, yeah, we're making a game called Project ReFantasy. Here's one piece of concept art. And then we just never heard anything of this game until... I think like last year at the Xbox showcase is when we first hear about this, and we're like, okay, this looks really cool. This looks really different. And that's so far my experience where I'm like, man, this is so unique in so many ways. And it's interesting. So I read something that I think the director was the one who was saying like, yeah, we watched... we looked into other fantasy, because this is Atlas's first real, like, fantasy game, not as much, like, because most of their RPGs that they're known for now, I would say, first big fantasy game. And I know there's Etrian Odyssey over there in Atlas Land, but as of this, like, this 3-pillar kind of approach, like, these main franchises, I should say, of, like, Shin Megami Tensei, then Persona is, like, the 2nd pillar, and then this is, like, the new 3rd pillar that they're trying to make. They were like, yeah, we looked into Lord of the Rings and we looked into all this stuff to kind of get influence, but we wanted to make our own original thing, so we kind of threw that all out. And that's what I'm seeing, where I'm like, I am kind of sick of fantasy, because it's like, yeah, I don't really like fantasy in the first place in many things. Like, I don't really care about Lord of the Rings. It's fine. I've seen the movies. They're good. But it's not my thing. And a lot of fantasy gets really generic really fast, where it's like, oh, we got the orc and the goblin here, and then the wizard is going to come over here and poop his pants, and then that's the game. And it's like, okay, yeah, we've seen that before. So just booting this up right off the bat, you're like, yeah, there's something more going on here with this. This is really cool. This is really unique. Visually, there's not too much like it. Just, of course, Atlas, sometime around Persona 5, Atlas was like, yeah, let's become the guys with the really stylish menus, and then they've just kind of continued that on. Look great in here. I think the character design and art design is fantastic. Music's really interesting. I mean, it is completely different than really anything we've ever heard. Shoji Meguro, I almost forgot his name. It's really different from anything that we've heard come out of him, and it's very just unique. Like, everything about this game feels completely fresh and completely unique, and it's like it doesn't take too long to get started. Like, it's very dense when you start it up, because you're like, okay, I gotta learn this whole thing, and it has kind of the compendium thing. I wish it worked more like the compendium in Final Fantasy 16, where you're like, all right, I don't know what's going on. I gotta pause a cutscene, and then it'll show me like, okay, it just mentioned this thing. That is what this is. This person is this. He's this, and he's from this whatever. It has that, but it's just a kind of a full compendium where you're like, okay, who is this again? Okay, I can read that there, and you can access that at pretty much any time. So that's good. I like things like that, for especially something with a bunch of made up terms, because there comes a point where I'm like, these made up terms mean nothing anymore. I think of the game Scarlet Nexus, the Namco Bandai game, and just playing that, and I'm like, at some point I'm like, I don't get what any of this means. I'm checked out. Like, and I don't see that happening here. And so far I'm really impressed with this one. I like the combat a lot. It is turn based, of course, and it is distinct enough from something you'd get out of a Persona or a Shin Megami Tensei. Like, it's its own unique thing. You have the ability to jump in to fights if you want to, but the characters that are out on the field are different kind of strength. So they might be less strong than you, it might be just about as strong or stronger than you. And the ones who are less strong than you can kind of just wipe out and just be like, I don't need to. But the ones who are maybe as strong or stronger than you can try to hit them with like that first attack and then hit triangle, or, you know, whatever it would be on Xbox, Y. And then you can go in, and that is what takes you into the turn-based battle. So you can try to kind of slash away at them to knock them out and then just get a little bit of experience, or you can go in and do the full turn-based battle. And I think that's really cool. Battles go by super quick. They're really snappy, and that's something that after Persona 5 is a big deal. As far as if I'm playing a turn-based RPG, I like turn-based RPGs a lot, but you got to make sure this thing's snappy. You better make sure that this thing is like responsive and fun and engaging, and that I'm not like watching animations that are like 10 seconds long of someone hitting something with a sword. So I like where the story's going. I'm interested it's still early, but I'm interested to see where it's going. I like the setup. There's a lot of cool like echoes to Persona where you're like, yeah, this is Persona, but it's not. Like, they are, clearly the pedigree from Persona, but also just like there's a weird character that's almost, and there's almost like a Velvet Room type area, but it's not quite that. And there's, different abilities that are almost like Persona abilities, but no, it's different. So everything is like it, but just a little different. And I'm really interested in it so far. And I think that this could end up being one of the best games of the year for sure. And I think as far as JRPGs, especially turn-based JRPGs go, I mean, I think this is a must-play just from what I've experienced of it, and I'm looking forward to jumping in more. But that is it. That is everything I've been playing lately. Some good stuff. I really have been enjoying these games, and like I said, I mean, very on-brand for my interests as far as releases. But I'd like to hear what you've been playing so far this month, or just in general, like to hear what you guys think if you've played any of these games. And I'd like to, thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And until next time.